What's going on, guys? It's Cal here from Buffalo SportsCenter. Today we're going to be talking about the new Highmark Stadium. Now, I know there's been a lot of discussion about this stadium. They've seemed to be building this thing at record speed. It seems every time I drive past there, a new spot of it is built up. They keep releasing this new footage, from drones and all that, and it looks like it's coming along quite well. But today, my arguing point is going to be, is this new stadium a disappointment? I mean, look, we've seen the renderings, but they failed to give us a full tour of the stadium. I know some season ticket holders have got to go do that experience at the current stadium, and they've kind of been walked through what this new stadium's going to be like. So let's talk about that first. Just some key points. First things first, it's 62,000 seats, and that is a record low. I mean, this stadium is going to be significantly smaller in capacity than our current stadium, and it'll actually be the smallest stadium in the whole league for capacity. I mean, 62,000 seats. That's still enough to make noise, and this new stadium is going to be designed to hold noise in, whereas the current stadium kind of lets that noise exit the stadium very easily. So this new stadium, although it's going to have a ton less seats, it's still going to be, as loud, probably even louder than our current stadium with just the design of it. Now, I thought one of the coolest aspects of this new stadium when they did this little show and tell for season ticket holders was that there's this little area, where it's kind of standing room only, kind of, on the concourse area, and it overlooks the city. So the stadium's going to actually be tall enough to the point where you could see the skyline of the city and you could see the lake. So I think that's going to be sick. Again, until it's built, we aren't really going to know what that's going to look like. But hey, if that's an option, that would definitely be a cool place to watch a game. You get that nice lookout, you get the lake heading into downtown, into the city. Again, I don't know how they're going to make that happen, but apparently that is going to be a thing. Now let's talk about some of the other teams getting stadiums. Tennessee, Chicago, for example, both unveiled really cool looking stadiums. Chicago is the latest one, and they're right on the water. And that brings me into my next point. Should the Bills have moved this new stadium downtown? I know a lot of teams in the NFL love having their stadium right by the water. I mean, so many activities you could have around the stadium. Albeit, parking is always an issue when you're by the water. And the current setup for the Bills, I mean, tons of parking room. It's going to be a little tough for the first few years of this new stadium. But once the old stadium gets knocked down and they kind of flip-flop the parking lots, it's going to be a breeze as always. I mean, the Bills have plenty of parking room. It's a little crammed at times, but compared to some other NFL stadiums, I think we're pretty lucky, being out in Orchard Park. But again, a lot of people wanted this stadium to be moved downtown. Again, a lot of stadiums are downtown, and having it in Orchard Park is a little bit tough for some people that really want to go, see maybe a Sabres game and the Bills game in the same day. Again, it's only 25, 30 minutes away from each other, but a lot of people wanted the stadium downtown because, there's a lot of businesses downtown. There's a lot more things to do downtown than in Orchard Park. So after the game, a lot of people complain that, all there is to do is drink, sit in the parking lot, tailgate. Whereas if it was downtown, you could be going to bars beforehand. I know there's a lot of places in Orchard Park too, but downtown, a lot of walking distance. Another point with this new stadium I wanted to make was the fact that it's not a dome. Now, this is probably the biggest argument so far. Again, this was a $1.7 billion project. If this was going to be a dome, it would be $3 to $4 billion. Again, we have Terry Pegula as our owner, who's pretty rich, right? But at the same time, he has been cheap in the past. Again, he still owns the Sabres too, which he's been very cheap about. And it looks like he's starting to sell off a lot of his assets. 25% of the Sabres, the Rochester lacrosse team he's selling. Again, smaller things than owning an NFL team, I get that, but the fact that he's selling some things means maybe he didn't even have enough money to really safely make this purchase of the new stadium, so maybe he's just giving himself some wiggle room there. That shows me that he was not and never was going to be able to afford the dome, which would have been $3 to $4 billion. Again, taxpayers are going to have to pay for $850 million of this one to begin with, which a lot of people are upset about. Remember, this is a New York State tax. A lot of people in New York City, a lot of people in Eastern New York are, that don't even care about the Bills are going to have to pay for this thing. So with that being said, you bump that number up to $2 billion for taxpayers, people are going to be fuming. So keep that in mind. But again, it's Buffalo, right? A dome would be nice. You have a generational talent at QB that historically plays better in domes, right? He's got a massive arm. He's just a complete specimen. We're talking about Josh Allen. Why would you have him play in the snow for half of his games? Well, I'll tell you why. Most quarterbacks cannot zing the ball in the snow, in the wind. Josh Allen can, right? Most quarterbacks cannot run in the porous weather. They're usually kind of scared to do that. Josh Allen does not care. So that's the biggest argument, right? Does this team play better in domes, or does this team play better in harsh conditions? Josh Allen can do both, and I think that's kind of the point that a lot of the higher-ups for the Bills wanted to make. Look, it doesn't matter if we're in a dome or if we're outside. Josh Allen's still going to be above his competition. Now, again, I was kind of team dome for a little bit just because I feel like Josh Allen can really utilize all of his powers in a dome. Again, we've seen it time and time again where, when Josh Allen's feeling himself in a dome, he's just doing it all. And we've seen a lot of the games where we're in the wind at home. A lot of his balls, end up being thrown a little bit too hard, honestly, and then that wind just takes it even further. And then, on the flip side of it, these quarterbacks on the other end just willy-nilly chuck up like a duck, and it ends up blowing right into the receiver's hands. And it's quite aggravating to know that we have the better QB, but it ends up just being a washout. My last point about this new stadium not being a dome is playoff games. Now, playoffs usually happen at the end of the year. That means the weather is horrible. And how many times have we been scared about having a weather game ruin a playoff game? I mean, look at last year against the Steelers. If we play that game in all the snow, which they ended up moving it and it ended up being a great day, but if we played that game in harsh conditions, snow, wind, that evens the game right away. I mean, the Steelers probably would have had an edge in that game if it was just a complete run game. You eliminated the passing from all that game. I don't know if we beat the Steelers. As much of a better team as we were, I don't know if we beat the Steelers if we play that game and we don't move that playoff game. So that's my biggest concern, right? If we're headed in the playoffs and we have Josh Allen and the weather just completely ruins a home playoff game for us and the home field advantage doesn't really matter, that's a big concern. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you like this new stadium? I know there's not really big Buffalo either. There's a lot of people complaining about the Buffalo figures and statues outside the stadium. They appeared to be pretty big when they first showed the renderings, and every single render since they've made them smaller and smaller and smaller, but that's a minor concern. So what do you guys think of this new stadium? I know we haven't really seen a ton of it yet, but we've seen enough of it to really give your opinions. Would you have wanted a little more creativity from the Bills? It's a pretty basic looking stadium, but it's miles better than the current stadium we have now, which the only reason people like it is nostalgia. Let me know in the comments. Leave a like on this video, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.